Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Brown's Latest. Thanks so much for joining us. I am Dave Grendzynski. You can call me Grizzer. A lot of people do because they couldn't pronounce our last name in high school, so they went with Grizzer. It's a whole variation of Griswold with the vacation movie. It's a long story, which I shared one time before. But I digress. Thank you to everybody who has liked our previous episodes. Hopefully this one makes the list. All of you who have subscribed to the channel, I've already been to the dry cleaner. Like the fit is ready to go. We are that close to 10,000. We will change the fit for just one show. When we hit 10,000 subscribers, I can't thank you all enough for signing up for our show and for everybody who has become a member of the Brown's Latest Dog Pound, and get your comments into the viewer comments section. Speaking of, this entire show has been inspired by you and the viewer comments. All of these are viewer comments that I took your takes and turned them into topics, and we will break it all down here over the course of the next 15 or 20 minutes. And our first viewer comment inspired topic centers around change. Then we're going to revisit the offensive line conversation because someone made a point that is right on the money. We'll also talk about what I think is the scariest take that I have heard yet about our Cleveland Browns. And in the viewer comments, we're still talking about the agent thing. I know I said I wasn't going to talk about the agent thing anymore, but I got to talk about the agent thing at least one more time. But on with our viewer comment inspired show. And the first comment that inspired a topic came from a password, not so much a YouTube handle, at YY. That's what we say every day about the Browns. Why? But we say it more like that. It's not why, it's why. So that's kind of how we have to say it around here, why. But YY1398-Z8M says, the results show the world that Stefanski is wrong. We are all wrong at points in our lives. We learn during those times if you are open to growth at any age. And this is one of the things that if I don't say it, I'm saying it without saying it. But like things need to change. And at some point, you just have to realize it's not working. And you just have to, for the betterment of the team, move yourself out of the way. He is in total control of this situation, calling the plays, running the offense, the whole thing. And I've been talking about it for years. Remember the play card? Here's our prop play card. How do you see the whole team? How do you see the whole field? How do you see anything with that play card in your face? And, we heard the Joe Klatt thing, him talking about it with Ryan Day, and we've heard others, talk about it. Like, it's not working, Kevin. If it's not working, it's like when you're raising your kids, right? Or you know what? Here's a better example. When you're coaching, okay? And you're coaching your own kid. And if you've coached your own kid out, you know what I'm talking about. So when I coached my kids, I would never, I shouldn't say never, but majority of the time, I would not, when there were teaching moments, whatever happened, a lot of times I'd go to one of the other coaches and I'd say, you need to talk to him. He's not going to listen to me. You got to know your limits. You got to know when to step in. Like, don't get me wrong. Like I coach my kids up, but there are those instances where you're like, he's not going to listen to me. He's just not going to listen. And so you need somebody else to step in, or whether it's, you and your wife, you and your partner, something, she's better at handling things than you are, vice versa, whatever that situation is. It is what it is, but you have to see that. And that's what Kevin Stefanski has to see and hasn't seen yet. That this is, we talked about walking into the pole every single day. We keep walking into the pole. We need to slide over to the right or slide over to the left. Or in this case, we need to slide you out of play calling and being involved with the offense. And you just oversee the whole thing if you want to stick around. Or if you're Haslam, why put the fans through this? You need to step in there and say, listen, Here's your choices. Either A, stop calling the plays. B, get away from the offense. Or actually both. How about that? Or C, unemployment line. Like, somebody be the adult in the room. But I thought that was a great take. And that's exactly, we're just mired in a guy who will not change his ways. Stubborn. Like a little kid. Just stubborn. Won't change it up. Onward. At Todd Parsley, 5164. He made a great point. And I've been talking about this, not on the show, but off the show for a couple of weeks. I mentioned it once, but he says, hey, Grizzer, when Bill Callahan was our offensive line coach, they did pretty good. We need them back. And you know what, Todd Parsley? We talked about this. And I did some checking. All right, hold on. So could this be a quick way to fix the offensive line? I don't know if it's a quick way, but we were better. I did some digging, Todd Parsley, and Soda Pop Dave loves to bring this up because he, we were actually pretty good when Callahan was here. But I don't want to just sit here and tell you that. What I did was I dug up some numbers, and I'm going to try and make this as efficient as possible. But this is 21 through 23 when Callahan was coaching our lines. We threw for over 11,000 yards. We averaged about 222.4 yards passing per game. The NFL average during that same period, 222. So we were at least average. Completion percentage, 60%, which was right there. The average through those years, 62 to 64, so we're right on the cusp. And yards per attempt, we're at 6.7, and so, you could round that up to 7. That was the average for the league, 7 yards. And the passer rating, 85 to 90. So, and you see there, our quarterback rating, 80.7. The touchdown to interception ratio, though, that's where but that could be more on the quarterback. You'd have to go back. I mean, because we had horrible quarterbacks. I mean, really since Bernie. So other than Flacco flashed. We had a couple flash from other guys here and there. Hoyer was okay for, some games. And anyway, I digress. 64 touchdowns versus 49 interceptions. So it was a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio during that time. That was the league average, 3-to-1. We were closer to like 1-to-3. So there's that. But in general, the Browns with Callahan was pretty good. The sack rate, 3.8%. 3 sacks a game. I mean, not stellar, but, we were running the ball much better. The passing game was better. So, it was, there was improvement in efficiency, and just all the way around. And so everybody sees that. Everybody remembers that. And Callahan's on the beach right now. Because remember, Tennessee got rid of him, and, his son was coach at Tennessee, and they made a change. Everybody makes changes but us with their coaches. So, now whether or not he's going to want to come back here, I don't know. I mean, he's getting paid right now to do nothing, which I would love that if I was him. Plus, I mean, he's getting up there. He's been around. So, I don't know. I don't know if we can talk him into coming back. But, yeah, we definitely were kind of making lemonade out of lemons when he was here with what we had. The offensive line definitely played better when he was here. We loved him. We loved him when he was here. Now, moving on. Grass and Bass. And now, when I say the scariest take, it's not Grass and Bass who had the scariest take, but it directly relates to the scariest take that I've heard, and I just heard it 2 days ago. Grass and Bass says 32nd ranked offense last year, but they traded down for 2 defenders with the first 2 picks, and people wonder why the offense looks so bad. And to double up on that, Grass and Bass, which is a great YouTube handle, we might be waiting until 2029 before this team really acts like it wants to be competitive, because we have a head coach who acts like he's not caring about being competitive. We have a general manager who makes moves that are very suspect, and you could say that about the head coach too, and doesn't seem to be fearing for his job. And Jason Lloyd made this point. He's a writer, Akron Beacon Journal, some other places. He covered the Cavs and things like that. But I saw him the other day. He said he thought that the day of the draft, when they traded from 2 to 5, he goes, that's a move that a GM who's not worried about his job or her job makes. And then the way Stefanski just comes out every week with this horrible offense and his horrible play calls and just comes out and says, we got to get better. That seems like a coach who's not worried about his job. And so this is what we taught. I brought this up a couple of times, and it is my worst fear. I've been saying it all along. And right now, as we sit 8 games into this 17-game season, I want to say halfway because I'm so used to 16 games, but it's 17 games now. So we're 8 games into the 17-game season. And it is, we showed you the offensive comparisons to we're worse than what we were last year. And neither one of these guys seem concerned about changing things up, making moves to make the team better. Like everybody just seems really complacent with what's going on right now. And so the worst fear, and the scariest take concerning this team is you can't do anything until you're out from under the Watson contract. You get all of that cap space back. You're just going to build as many high picks as you can, build up as many first-round picks as you can, build this roster. You've got this group going in when you get to 2029. I mean, they're going to basically be hitting their prime if they're all still around. Now, we're not going to, we might be able to pay some of those guys, because you're talking about Graham and Judkins and Sampson and, and the quarterbacks and, everything else, but because they're going to be reaching the end of their rookie contracts. But that's the worst fear, to make us sit through seasons like not only this one, but the last 40 years, to make us sit through this 3 more times before we get to the new stadium. That would be a crime. That would be nearly unbearable for us as fans, and show such disrespect to all of the people that support this organization and have had for years. And all of us everybody, the viewer, comments, everybody who watches this show, this would be the biggest kick in the teeth we could have ever experienced as fans outside of Modell moving the team to Baltimore. So that take, Grass and Bass, was that timing is everything, because I kept thinking about, what Jason Lloyd said, because it kind of confirmed what it's not the first time I've said this. It's not the first time I brought this up, but it's one of those things that is there, but you don't want to talk about it because you don't want to speak it into existence. But I just feel like today it came up, and it is a real threat to Browns fans that this regime is not doing anything to win for the next 3 years. Prepare yourself for that. Great take, Grass and Bass, and great handle. And now we have reached the actual viewer comments. This is where we normally do. And, I've told you before, one of these days, I don't know, if I have more time, I'd love to put how I just did the graphics there with the, with the actual take. But it's time consuming. And, there are other things that are happening around the Browns' latest studio. And so we will begin today with Michael Erdell -U3S. Starts as a YouTube handle, ends as a password. Michael Erdell says, to all who trash Dylan Gabriel as not having it or being a career backup, you may be right. You may be right, but you ought to consider that John Elway was abysmal on an abysmal team. Denver, 1983. In 11 games, 47% completion percentage, 6.4 average yards per completion. That's still 2 yards better than Dylan. 7 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. Peyton Manning in 1998. 3-13 record, 56% completion percentage. 6.5 yards per completion. That's still like 2 yards better than Dylan. 26 touchdowns and 28 interceptions. Eli Manning, Drew Brees, others had terrible stat lines even through 3 years. But remember, we compared Gabriel to Tom Brady, and after 3 games, they were like dead even. So Gabriel was on track to match Tom Brady. No, I'm kidding. Michael Erdell, I totally get what you're saying. I get it. Part of it is that was a different time, and people were, I don't know, willing to wait. Now we're in a microwave society, so everybody wants everything instantly. I agree with you, Michael. Like, yes, it does take a time for an NFL quarterback. Look at Darnold. Look at Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes, now in Indy. Look at these guys that it takes. Look at Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner's another great example of a guy who, was like a late bloomer. Some of these guys, it just takes time. We want to rush these guys. These are kids that have come out of college. And you want to rush them into these highly complex offenses. That's why, look at Jordan Love now. Jordan Love beat his heir apparent, the guy who didn't really want to talk to him when he was there. But he spent all those years on the bench, just soaking it in, watching Rodgers do his thing. I love that. I love that model, what Green Bay does. Because think about it. When was the last time you sat down and said, man, Green Bay, they don't have a quarterback. Green Bay always has a quarterback because they always have somebody waiting in the wings. Watch, in the next year or two, they will draft the next heir apparent, and they will have him sitting there for 2 or 3 years, and then Jordan Love will peace out somewhere, and they'll take over. It's always like that. But with Dylan Gabriel, the problem that's tied to Dylan Gabriel is Kevin Stefanski, Michael. That's the problem. This offense and the play calls and all of it, and no audibles and no creativity and no ability to improvise, it stifles quarterbacks. That is what Baker Mayfield said. This scheme, Kevin Stefanski is the quarterback stifler, not the quarterback whisperer. And so therein lies part of the problem. But great take, Michael. I'm not saying you're wrong. You're absolutely right. But I think Kevin Stefanski is the asterisk in this whole thing, the quarterback stifler. Jason Leonard says, save Shador for Tommy Reese since Kevin won't put him in the best positions to look good. And that's exactly piggybacks off of what we were just talking about. I think that's what would happen. I think if you put in Shador, Kevin's got to get out of there. Or like somebody said, well, you keep talking about switching, Kevin for, when Shador comes in, why don't you switch him, for Dylan Gabriel? Yeah, let's do that. I would love to see the difference. How awesome would it be to see Gabriel with Reese calling the plays and running the offense? And then if Gabriel goes out there and looks 10 times better, exposed, although Flacco's already exposed him, Gabriel's already exposed. Mayfield's already exposed him. But as much as I rag on Watson, he's never playing for the Browns again. But as much as I rag on him, I have stopped and thought, maybe he's not as bad. He's bad. But maybe he's not as bad as he looked because of the Kevin Stefanski, because of the quarterback stifler. But he's bad. And I told my buddy this when we got him. I'm like, the guy hasn't played in 2 years. And we didn't even work him out because that makes a lot of sense. And then we're going to give him a guaranteed $200 gazillion contract. Who does that? Who just goes up to a guy and say, hey, I heard you used to work in a widget making. Yeah, but I haven't been in the widget making in like 2 years. Well, here's the thing. You want to come work for us? We're going to pay you the most we've ever paid anybody ever in the widget making industry. And yeah, that's it. What do you think? And, by the way, all the money's guaranteed too. So you will get everything. We're going to give you $230 million to come be our widget maker. And the money will be in your bank account. It's just going to go right to your bank account. You'll have it in there. So essentially, you're handing me a lottery ticket? Okay, sure. All right. Goes home, tells his wife, so they already paid me. I'm just going to go there and see how long it takes them for me to get fired. And then, because I already have the money. So I don't really need to work because I got the money. They gave me a lottery ticket. That's how the Browns do business. Eddie Francis. Once you take away the flats and limit his rollouts, Dylan Gabriel can't see anything over the middle. They are going to get someone hurt feeding the linebacker. So he's saying the wide receivers are all the linebackers are like the animals over the middle, and they're feeding the linebackers. And he's not wrong. That the pass is batted down, the thrown over the middle. Like, you still see some of these balls because he has to adjust his arm, and the trajectory is up. He's overthrowing guys. Like, there's a reason there are no 5'11". There's not, like, every quarterback. There's a reason. There's a reason quarterbacks are tall in this league. It's because the linemen are all tall. Alexander Pratt 226. Dave, I disagree with you saying that they're not doing anything wrong. And now Alexander's talking about the agent thing. And when I said there are no formal rules against it, so they're not doing anything wrong, that's what I'm saying. I'm not. So I'm going to read the take. We're talking about the agent thing. I'll read the take and then I'll explain. Dave, I disagree with you saying that they're not doing anything wrong. As head coach, Kevin should treat all of his players fairly. When Kevin gives Dylan preferences over Shedeur, it is a form of malpractice bias. And based on all of the metrics that came out of training camp in the preseason, Shedeur was better than Dylan. This matters because Kevin said that the quarterbacks were in a competition. And yeah, but Alexander, I'm not saying that it's right. I've said it is completely sketchy. It is completely greasy. It is completely whatever word that means exactly the same thing as sketchy and greasy is. That's what it is. But the NFL doesn't have a rule against it. So in the grand scheme of things, they're not doing anything wrong. It is a completely horrible look. I'm going to go past bad look. It's a horrible look. It is. I'm with you, Alexander, because how can you not go, when you find that out? When they're all, all the agency that represents, they're all in the same place. Very sketchy, but no, I'm not saying they're not doing anything wrong. I'm saying the NFL will tell you, well, they're not doing anything wrong. We don't have a rule against it. But it's a horrible look. It's sketchy. It's just, I wouldn't do it, but this is what they do. And we'll end today with Super Saiyan 3-N2B. Super Saiyan says, I have to agree, Grizz, but the only reason I still watch the Browns is your podcast. The organization is terrible. Okay, well, at least I got that going for me. Thanks, Super Saiyan. At least I'm a notch above the Browns. I appreciate it. But seriously, no, the reason I want to end on that is I can't thank you enough. The 10,000 subscriber thing means a ton to me. I told Noah, remember Noah, who was on the show, and I told Tobin, my other son, and my wife, and and I said, if we got to 10,000 subscribers, that would be really, really special, and I really appreciate it. You guys, I thank you for the support. Hopefully, we just have a little bit of fun here with our favorite team in the NFL every day. But I can't thank you enough for all of the support. And hey, we're just getting started. All right, that's going to do it. Hey, tomorrow, prediction pen. We're going to do rest of the season predictions with the prediction pen. Just because there's no game doesn't mean the prediction pen's not showing up. Prediction pen works every Saturday during the season, whether it's a bye week or not. So the prediction pen will make predictions for the rest of the year. All right, that'll do it for today. Go Browns! We'll see you next time.